Thanks for joining me again, Taurus. Dadhichi here from astrology.com.au. Good to have your company. Look, we've got the new format here, and I want to just jump straight in and take a look at what's happening for the month of September for you. We had that really big eclipse recently. That no doubt is still going to be affecting you in the areas that I've mentioned, which is this fourth house of your horoscope. Let me just get this back to the proper date of the 1st of September. I've just been working through. Bear with me for a moment here. We're going back. We're time traveling right now. This is how we do it. Here we go. And I want to just get a bit more animation in these charts so you can actually see what's happening in your life when it happens. So you see here on the 1st of September, this 9th house contains the moon, and we just started talking about this 4th house where the eclipse was. Right now we see Venus down here, and that's your ruling planet. So this is definitely a month where a lot more energy is directed to your family life, and we see especially some consolidating aspects from this planet. Venus around the 13th, when it makes a beautiful trine aspect to Saturn here in your 8th house of shared resources. So that shared resources sector has to do with finances, money, and I dare say, because you've got so much energy going into the home, at least some of you will be maybe looking at doing construction work, reconstruction work, redesign, extensions, purchasing of furnishings, that type of things to beautify your environment. And this generally shows us, because Venus has what we call directional strength in this 4th house. It feels good in this northern part of the horoscope. This is the north of your horoscope, and having Venus here is very powerful. It shows us too, you'll be thinking outside the square with North Node here. The North Node is very similar to this planet over here, Uranus, and we can see here that both this conjunction that takes place later in the month, and this aspect here that's occurring to Mercury, both of these different planetary forces will be subjected to these unusual types of Uranian and progressive energies. Actually, let me have a look here. Venus, Venus on September 15th makes a direct contact with this North Node here. So very much leading up to the 15th and after. Notice also that Mercury is retrograde. It will be retrograde from what I can see here. Let me have a look here. It doesn't seem to be going direct here. I think it's going direct in the just after the first week. Oh, there it is there, 5th of September. So the first 5 days, if you're doing anything in the home area, you need to be a little bit careful of that so that you don't end up making the wrong decision, which is what retrograde Mercury is notorious for. Have a look here, the movement of the moon into your 10th house here. Then we see it moving into the conjunction of the South Node here, around the 4th and 5th. This has a lot to do with going back into your past and being the ruler of the 3rd house of communications. There could be some situation where your work is dependent on the work you did before. So it's important to do your work properly so this sort of thing doesn't happen, where you may have to go back over old ground. And look here at this very powerful opposition that builds here on the 5th and 6th to Mars, which can be very combative, showing problems not just in the home but also in your working life. The conjunction to Neptune is also an important one here, building up after the 6th in your 11th house of friendships and cherished desires. So again, care needs to be taken there. And it's also a full moon around that time. 5th and 6th, the moon will be very bright. It's the communications planet in fullness there in the 11th house, showing a lot of socializing, a lot of communication with your friends, but also having that also don't forget to, let me just reverse that a little bit and show you just here, when it's in the opposition to Mars, that can be very, very combative. Then it moves to its fullness in that conjunction with Neptune, bringing with it all sorts of problems in your relationships. Notice also the Sun here in the 5th house, and Mars just slips into the 5th house also after September 6th, bringing with it a real desire for relationships, and also possibly, how can I say, the problem of contention there, maybe misunderstandings and that sort of thing. Now, let me just fast forward here a little bit more, because I want to take a look also at your ruling planet, the beautiful sextile aspect that's taking place, and lots of things heat up around the 16th. Let me show you why. When you look at Venus down here, which is going to be moving into a lovely sextile aspect to Jupiter here. So there's Venus here in your 4th house and Jupiter sextile 6th. Now the 6th house has to do with debts. So again, this is maybe sorting out some of those problems you have, not just with your debts, but the 6th house is people that you work with, your co-workers, that type of thing. Really good relationship here with them. Not only that, Jupiter being in the 6th house is your health. So we see that there's some improvement for you in terms of the way your physical being has been. If you've been having some problems there, then that is an important transit that will start to lift your health and make you feel better, especially because Jupiter now is moving in its forward direction, along with Saturn, which is your best planet, even though it's in the 8th house. What else do we have here for you? We see Venus moving into its debilitation on the 20th. Now that's a problem. That shows that some of the really nice influences you've had in your relationships here. Look at the congregation of planets in the 5th house. Definitely after the 20th, there's going to be a focus here. Now let's split this up a little bit, because it may not just be to do with love affairs. It can do with, as I've always said, 5th house has to do with children or your inner child. And look at the power of Neptune here. This can be either a force for total confusion or a force for idealism and spirituality. Very little is known about this 5th house being what we call the initiatory house. And for those of you watching that are into spirituality, spiritual initiation can take place under this aspect very, very powerfully. We see also the conjunction to the Sun here. That's a problem for you in that when Venus, well, that's not going to happen for a while. The Sun has passed there. Being in the same house, there may be a bit of exhaustion associated with your children, with your lovers, and maybe with yourself, because as I say, the best relationship is the relationship you have with yourself. The big one here we see is the opposition to Neptune, which is going to take place when Venus comes to around the 6th or 7th degree here, right there, around the last 3 days of the month. This could be a nebulous period, and the passion that builds up here with the conjunction of your ruler Venus and Mars in opposition to Neptune means, again, this is a month where caution has to be taken in all of your relationships, especially new ones where you're getting all hot under the collar. Join me next month. That's all I've got for you just now. I mean, we have to speed through this, but join me at astrology.com.au in the meantime, where you can get all the additional information on the month, the day, and even the year. Until next month, see you then. Bye for now.